Hey, Gracie, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, good. Good to see you again.
You too. So, Rick, I was really interested to learn more about the organization design and alignment model that you use with your CEOs. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. I'm glad you asked. So, organization design, there are many different models and approaches to doing organization design. Typically, we think of it as whole systems design. I have three that are my favorites, but the one I'd like to talk to you about today is what I call organization design and alignment. And this is developed by two of my dear friends and mentors, Don and Sandra Jewell, consultants out of Atlanta. I've been using it for over 30 years, and it's been helpful both in organization diagnosis as well as organization design. And let me pop the model up. The model has two core components. One is data collection and assessment if you're redesigning an organization. And then the lower diagonal line is, okay, now how do we implement it? If you're redesigning or restructuring an organization, you want to collect data around each of these components. The first is strategies. So, what is the organization strategy? What are the goals and objectives of the organization, given the environment and marketplace that the organization's functioning within? So, to get clear about those strategies. The second is to say, given those strategies, what kind of an organization do we need to have in place? What kind of structures do we need to have in place? Is it multiple divisions? Are there silos? Is it much more of a matrixed organization? Sometimes we call it a front back model in terms of customization on the customer end, and yet efficiency on the back office end. So there's lots of structural components to an organization, and that's when we understand where we are today, and then think through where do we want to be in the future. The third component is what we call systems. And these are all the systems: finance systems, IT systems, HR systems, communication systems, performance management system, development systems. And so the question is, what systems do we need to have in place that reinforce the kind of organization we think we need to have in order to achieve those strategies? The fourth item is organization capabilities and individual competencies. And so that's stepping back and saying, if these are the strategy, structures, and systems, now what are the capabilities we need to have as an organization as a whole? So these are organization capabilities. And given those organization capabilities, then to say, these are the individual competencies we need to have. So think about, again, a hierarchical, siloed organization, much more of a command and control kind of a structure, will require certain kind of command and control systems, which means people need to have those kind of capabilities to work within that kind of an organization. That's very different than a team-based matrix, or even beyond a matrix, a networked organization. So what are the kind of structures, systems, and competencies necessary for individuals and the organization and to make all of that work? And then finally, what's the culture like? And you're going to have a culture. The question is, do you help shape and form that culture, or do you just let it emerge? And here we're saying, let's define the culture and get first clear about where are we today, and then saying, what are the changes we need to make? Do we need to be more customer centric? In healthcare, do we need to be more patient centric? Is it going to be more of a team-based organization, or is it going to be more of a command and control? So all of those things create a kind of a culture that answers the question, what's it like to work around here? So if you're diagnosing an existing organization, we like to go through those five elements. If you're designing or redesigning the organization, we ask, how do each of those elements need to change? Design prioritization. What are the design priorities, and getting clear about them? We then move into action planning. We say, okay, if this is where we want to be, how do we roll it out? Where do we start? Well, what we have found, what I learned from Don and Sandra, is that we're best to start on the cultural side, establish what it's going to be like to work in this organization, what our priorities are culturally, then start building in the capabilities, organization capabilities, and individual competencies in order to be able to utilize the kinds of systems and structures we're going to be putting in place. And then finally, we take another look at the strategies, and this is where it becomes a cyclical model. And it's really an ongoing look and dialogue and fine tuning and tweaking as we move the organization towards a future state vision. The last element you see there in the middle is leadership. Leadership is key. Leadership has to be very committed to doing this work, putting the resources into doing this work, being really clear about here's what that future state looks like that we want to create, and or involve people in helping create that. So leadership is really in the middle of the model because it is central to what we're trying to do. So those are some of the elements of the work I do with a lot of my CEOs.
Thanks so much, Rick. Super helpful.
You're welcome.